Okay, so there's this huge and kind of invisible shift happening right under our noses in how the world pays for stuff. It's completely rewriting the rules for global business, and in this explainer, we're going to break down the new playbook for global commerce. Let's kick things off with a number that really puts everything into perspective. All right, it all begins with this one number, 85%. I mean, what does that even mean? It's a figure so big it almost sounds fake, a massive slice of the global pie. But what does it actually stand for? Well, that's the percentage of the entire world's population that lives in emerging markets. And here's the thing you've got to get. These markets aren't some far-off future thing to think about later. Nope. They're changing the face of global business right here, right now. And hey, don't just take my word for it. As Pedro Arendt, the CEO of dLocal, says, the real story, the most important growth, isn't happening where we've always looked. The old economic hubs, they're no longer the only game in town. So what does this mean? It means we need to basically throw out the old map. Let's take a look at the new commerce map, because it's being completely redrawn by these super dynamic, fast-growing economies that are really setting the pace for everyone else. And the stats here are just wow. We're talking about these regions driving nearly 2/3 of all global growth by 2035. Their middle class is on track to double, which means hundreds of millions of new consumers are coming online. And get this, by 2027, almost 90% of the world's youngest shoppers, millennials and Gen Z, will be living in these markets. That is a fundamental shift in where the money is. Okay, so huge opportunity, right? But, and this is a big but, you can't reach these new customers using the same old strategy. Why not? Because the old playbook was built around one thing and one thing only, the credit card. And that model, it's officially obsolete. This is where you have to understand something called alternative payment methods, or APMs. But honestly, that name's kind of misleading. Because in these markets, things like mobile money, e-wallets, and instant bank transfers, they aren't the alternative. Nope, they're the primary way people pay. And this chart just tells the whole story perfectly. In Asia, a whopping 70% of online payments are already APMs. In Africa, it's nearly 6 out of 10. And in Latin America, they're powering about half of all digital sales. The takeaway is simple. If you're only set up to take credit cards, you're basically invisible to half the market, or maybe even more. So, let's get on the ground for a second. What does this new money actually look and feel like in practice? You can think of it as learning a whole new language of commerce. First up, you've got real-time payments, or RTPs. The easiest way to think about these is like a direct wire transfer, but it happens in the blink of an eye. It's account to account, it happens in seconds, and it completely cuts out the old-school card companies we're all used to. And the scale of these systems is just insane. You've got these two global superstars. In Brazil, Pix is used by over 160 million people. Seriously, the payment moves faster than you can send a text. And then there's India's UPI, which is an absolute juggernaut, powering more than 10 times billion payments every single month. Next up, we have e-wallets and mobile money. These are pretty much what they sound like, digital wallets on people's phones. But the really critical part is that they often aren't even tied to a traditional bank account. So for millions of people who have a phone but no bank, this is their bank. It's a massive, massive leap forward for financial inclusion. And just look at how deeply embedded these things are in daily life. In Kenya, M-Pesa isn't just a way to pay. The word itself is basically a synonym for money, handling around 100 million transactions a day. Or look at the Philippines, where GCash is just woven into the fabric of life, powering the majority of payments for everything from ride-hailing to gaming. You hear all this, you see the incredible potential, but does it actually work in the real world? Who is actually winning by adopting this local-first approach? All right, let's look at the receipts, right? We can see this playbook in action by checking the numbers from a company that lives and breathes these markets. The data shows you exactly what happens when you get this right. Check this out. In a single quarter, just a 3-month period in 2025, that company processed $9.2 billion in payments. This isn't some forecast. This is what happens when you're built from the ground up to speak the new language of commerce. And this wasn't some lucky fluke. This chart shows the year-over-year growth in that payment volume. And look at that. For 3 straight quarters, it's grown by over 50%. That's not just growth, that is a sustained explosion. And it's not just happening in one hot market. This success is global. Revenue in Latin America shot up 46% year over year. And in Africa and Asia, get this, it jumped by an incredible 65%. This proves that mastering local payments is the key to unlocking growth across the entire globe. So, where does all this go from here? Because this playbook, it's not set in stone. It's constantly evolving. Let's explore what the future of commerce is already starting to look like. So there's a pattern to all this, a kind of roadmap that merchants tend to follow. It's called the S-curve of localization. You know, they usually start small, just accepting international cards, but that only gets them so far. Then they get serious, localizing in the biggest markets, adding those specific must-have payment methods like Pix. And finally, they take that proven playbook and expand it into the newer frontier markets. It's a repeatable path to success. And the innovation just doesn't stop. The playbook is constantly getting new pages added. You have things like SmartPix, which gives Brazil's instant payments the same one-click convenience as a saved credit card. You have platforms that bundle all the different buy now, pay later options, so merchants can offer them without taking on risk. And yeah, even crypto is playing a role, with stablecoin on-ramps popping up to make sending money across borders way faster and cheaper. Which leaves us with one final and pretty crucial question. Money is moving faster, it's smarter, and it's more local than ever before. That old centralized one-size-fits-all model is broken. So the real question is, with everything changing this fast, are global brands actually ready to keep up?